Welcome to the Love Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Dasher, and I thank you for joining us today as we discuss mental health and its importance to your wellness. So get your tissues ready, and let's get into some much needed self reflection and healing. Are you ready? Let's go.
Today, we are going to actually be talking about mind your healthcare. Okay. And what we're going to be discussing pretty much is just we're going to be going over what it is, the mental health field, what it is to talk about different things that are occurring when it comes to mental health, how it affects us, especially in this season. As you know, during the holidays tends to be the season that there's a lot of depression, anxiety, things like that. So today we're going to go over those things and just we're going to have our lovely guest star on today, which is Miss Shenelle Sendar. She is with us today. And
Good
she's just going to be discussing with us her take on mental health, how things work in her field, what she sees, and just give us an overall of what we can do to better help ourselves when it comes to mental health. So let's welcome her on the show. Hi, Chanel.
Hello, good morning. I am
Good
so happy.
morning, and how are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed, and I'm blessed that you are on here because I'm one of those people that loves therapy. And I
I am
think
so
that therapy is, yes, one of the best things next to, being a Christian, honestly, because, yeah, we can pray, but sometimes you just need that extra help. So I definitely think you being on today and just talking to us about all the different avenues that we can take when it comes to mental health, things we can do at home to help us, just giving us your take on, you know, just how things can be better as far as our mental health is concerned. So if you want, just go ahead and just let us know exactly your background, how you got into the mental health field. Just let the viewers know exactly who you are.
Mhm. So it's interesting that I ended up in this field because I wasn't originally supposed to be. When I did my undergrad, my goal was I was going to be a lawyer and eventually be a judge, and I was going to rule over the justice system. But then
All
I
right.
got into my classes and I realized that I had no interest in it. I wasn't paying attention. I had no idea how I passed those classes, but I wanted nothing to do with it. I graduated with a criminal justice degree. So I went from pre law to criminal justice because I said that I did eventually want to help at risk youth, juvenile detention center, people, young adults, teens. So I
Right.
stuck with the criminal justice undergrad degree, and I decided that I wanted to go into mental health because I was always interested in behaviors, the way people think, the way people react, why they do the things that they do. So then I pursued my master's degree in mental health counseling. And ultimately, the goal was for me to become a therapist, a mental health therapist. And I did so because my background, I am from the Caribbean, and there is a very huge stigma everywhere, but especially in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
Mental health isn't talked about. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about our business. What goes on in the home stays in the home. And I come from a background of trauma. There's a lot of trauma in my family. Either they recognize that there is, some do. A lot of my family members don't. They're in denial about it. I chose to be different. I didn't want to be in denial about it. I didn't want to pretend like it wasn't there. I knew that some things that I went through, they affected me and I wanted to do something about it. So I chose mental health. I chose to be better, to want more for myself. And in order for me to do that, I actually had to reach out and seek for help. And in doing so, I loved the field and recognized that I wanted to be one of those professionals that was some type of guidance to people who are also of my background, that not only in the Caribbean, but in minority populations and communities that they don't talk about mental health, but they want to try something different.
Absolutely. And you honestly, Chanel, hit something on the head when you said about the community, because this is something else that I discussed in my previous podcast a little bit. That stigma of, yes, we are not taught initially in our community to really speak about our feelings. We're kind of told to hold it in, suck it up. We're not given that safe space to actually like communicate. what is going on with us so that we can actually get some kind of help. A
Mhm.
lot of us tend to suffer in silence, or we feel unheard. And those are a lot of the cases that you do see where people sometimes, things end up badly for them because they feel unseen, unheard. They don't know how to cope with the emotions that have been building up and building up. And that is trauma, like you were saying, that you just experience. And as a kid, you don't know, you're
Mhm.
just trying to appease and please, whoever your parents are, whoever it is that, is raising you, and you're just going with the flow kind of. But sometimes that does tend to, like you said, it causes more trauma in the end because we don't have the tools we need to
Right.
navigate those emotions properly. So I definitely agree with you on that. That is definitely something that in our, especially our community, like I said, it's when I started therapy, I did feel like it was kind of like a thing where I couldn't talk about it, amongst the family members because it was kind of that, why are you taking therapy? Is something wrong with you? But it's like
Mhm.
I'm taking therapy so that I can be better. It's not that something's wrong with me, but I'm in therapy for that reason so I can be a better person when I'm around you guys. It's not a negative thing. I think it's a positive thing, right? To seek
Mhm.
help, and try to get some things under control that, I obviously could not control. And I thought that I could, but I couldn't manage it.
Right.
Um, so I love that you brought that up. So what is it that you think as far as what tends to hold us back? Why do you think that is a stigma that therapy is shunned upon? Like, what do you think the underlying reasons are for that, that people look at therapy that way instead of looking at it as a tool? They look
Mm.
at it as part, like a failure, like I'm failing. I'm like I can't control things, so now I have to go see a therapist. There's something wrong with me. Like, what do you think, for us, like, why is that? Like, what do you think the reasons are behind it that we feel that way?
Perception and misconceptions.
Yeah.
We have to have the perception that nothing's wrong with us, that we can conquer any and everything, that we don't need help. We can figure it out on our own. And then there's this misconception behind mental health that if you seek it, then you must be crazy, right?
Yes.
You're crazy. Something's wrong with you. What you talking about? Like, no, we don't. Black people don't go through those things, right? I
Right.
had someone share an experience with me that told they were going through postpartum depression, and their husband told them, "You are a black woman. Black women don't go through postpartum depression. Black women don't go through depression. We don't go through those things." Yes,
Wow.
that is what was said to her by her husband. So
Wow.
it's this concept that because we are in the community that we are, we cannot present ourselves because of the image we already have about us, that there is any form of weakness whatsoever. And
Yeah.
mental health to a lot of people is a form of weakness.
Yes.
It's a form of vulnerability, and people don't like being vulnerable. Being vulnerable means that you have to show every single part of you, the ugly and the bad parts included. And nobody wants to
Mhm.
do that. It's a fear behind of it.
Yes. And that is exactly what I was going through. That, like you said, it's a fear. And it's like you have to present this strong persona, especially like you said, as black people in general, because we already wear so many stigmas. And so it's a fear that you have of just even getting help. And that sounds crazy in itself because you're scared to get help because of what people are thinking and the perceptions.
Mhm.
But if you don't get the help, they're still wondering what's wrong with you because when you act out, or whatever case may happen, then it's like, well, what's wrong with her? Why is she acting like that? But at the same time, you don't understand what's going on the inside. And I'm struggling with it because I'm worried about what you're going to say about me if I say, yeah, I had to see a therapist. And then it's, oh,
Mhm.
well, you're crazy. So hearing about that husband, like, and I was one of those people that went through postpartum depression. I
Mhm.
did, like, for a while.
Mhm.
And I did not get the help that I needed. And so, because I really didn't know, I didn't know what I was going through anyway. I just knew that I was feeling bad. I felt like maybe it was the pregnancy hormones, the aftermath of it. But that was something I was struggling with. And I did not realize for years that I had postpartum depression.
Mm,
until like later on when I actually learned about it more. But I was struggling with that. But like you
mm,
said, because of that's just the way I've been raised. Like, you toughen up. I'm an army brat at that. So it's like, no, you suck it up. You keep it moving. We don't got time for this.
yeah.
So it's just something that I find, and this is why I want to do this podcast on this, that I really do feel like we need to accept that we need help. We
Yeah.
need to accept that we can't do it on our own. And yes, I'm a firm believer in Christ. I wear my Bible on my sleeve, but at the same time, prayer along with therapy has gotten me to where I am. You can
Mm,
have both. You do not have to just rely on one. You can
mm,
have both.
mm,
And I believe God put people just like you in place for that reason.
mm,
So
mm.
it's not just, oh, you have to go to church and talk to your pastor. Well, your pastor is great. But
Yep.
sometimes you need someone that's their field. That's what they know. That's what they do,
Mm.
to really help you get to the root of your issues.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I
And
love that. I absolutely love that. And I want to encourage that more with the viewers. I really want you guys to get this, that therapy is not a failure for you. Therapy is a path to a better you. So,
mhm,
I mean, I encourage people, especially during this time in this season when it seems like it's the most depressing season because of the holidays, and some people don't have family members. They're missing their family members. They've passed on. This is the time for you to definitely hone in and reach out if you're struggling with anything and not just sit there and suffer in silence.
mhm.
Um,
I
so
also
have
think I
you, oh,
also
I'm sorry.
I wanted to add to what you were saying with
Yes.
um, joining your spiritual walk with your mental health journey, right?
Yes.
Because there is a scripture in the Bible that says faith without works is dead, right?
Absolutely. Don't you
And
start. We're going to church today.
we can have all the faith in the world, or we can pray until our our face turns blue. But
Hmm.
in the Bible, if we're going to go there, every single
We
person,
can.
every single person that God helped, he made sure that they were putting in some effort on their part,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. Sure did.
So it's the same thing with mental health. You can definitely pray for God to help heal you through the mess that you're going through. But
Hmm.
in the effort for him to do that, it takes work on your part as well. He's going to
Yes.
present these things to you, these tools, these resources that can help you. But if you're choosing to not take them, accept them, then you're also dismissing and denying what he's presenting to you,
Yes. All
right?
right.
Because
Now, come on, Shanelle.
God works through people, right?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. I say this all the time. You are a vessel. You are a vessel. You have a purpose. It does not matter who you are. You know what I mean? Like people tend to think you have to be a pastor. You have to be this perfect saint. No, no, ma'am. Like majority of the people in the Bible were sinners. You know what I mean? Those are the people he used. So you can never feel. I tell people never feel like you're not good enough for God to use you. He can use anybody,
Mm,
anybody. And like you said, faith without works is dead. So if you're not putting those steps forward, if you're not going to take that step forward, then no, you are denying. You are like, well, God, you're not who you say you are. You know what I mean? Because you have to put in some work for him to see, like, okay, child, I see you trying to make it. I'm going to push you a little bit closer
mm,
to what you need. I'm going to get you a little closer to where you need to go. But you have to be willing to take those steps, and you have to get that fear out of your mind. Like
right.
fear is what's crippling. Fear is not, to me, fear is a trick of the enemy. Like perfectionism is a trick of the enemy, but fear is a trick of the enemy because if I keep you in fear, you're not going to move forward, and I can keep you exactly where I need you to be.
Right.
So God is not a fear. That's not how we were made. We're not fearful creatures. So yeah,
Mm,
like you said, you need to take those steps forward, and you
mm,
need to seek what you need and not worry about everybody else's opinion, because opinions are opinions. Like you don't want to be the one that, because you're worried about the opinions, now they're looking over you, if you get what I mean. They're now, people are watching you, and in your current state where you could have been thriving.
mm.
So you are so right, girl. Don't make me go to church today. Because I will go there. I promise you I will. I will definitely go there. So I want to touch a little bit on trauma, because I know you mentioned that you did go through trauma, and I know
Mhm.
most of us have been through some type of trauma. If
Mhm.
you don't mind sharing some of your experience of going through trauma, we don't have to go into it really like detailed, but just some of the experience that you've had with dealing with your own trauma and how
Yeah,
that's affected you.
for sure. I mean, I've been through a lot of grief and loss, losing a lot of people that were near and dear to me. Um, Sexual trauma in my childhood, uh, seasons of depression. Still to this day, struggle with anxiety. I'm a very high functioning, anxious person,
Hmm.
um, and just a lot of body image issues. So body dysmorphia is also something that I've struggled with, and perfectionism as well.
Perfectionism. Yeah.
Mhm.
That is definitely. I find it interesting because you know what, like I said, God does things, and I leave it up to Him. But I find it interesting that when you said anxiety, this is something I also suffer from. I actually really do have anxiety, um,
Mhm.
and I have found that I had to come to grips with that. And like I said, this has been through therapy because over the time period, like we were discussing, I just was hiding things. But
Mhm.
yeah, I have severe anxiety. To the point where sometimes it is crippling. I find myself sitting in my room, staying away from things, or
Yeah.
things kind of get out of hand. Like I might have one of those moments where I'm in the corner and I'm just panicking.
Mhm.
Um, and it has been through prayer and in therapy that I've kind of found my coping mechanisms to kind of deal with that more and kind of like let loose and just understand that some things are not in my control.
Mhm.
Um, that everyone's not out to get me. Um, And the body dysmorphia, that is something that I suffer from as well. Like I constantly find myself in the mirror, picking myself apart.
Yeah.
Um, Even though on the outside, and we are not gonna cry today. I said I wasn't gonna cry today.
I mean, if it
Even though
happens, let it flow.
I was like, and that was one of my anxieties too. That was one of the things I was anxious about. I was like, I know when she get on here, I might just cry because she's gonna say something that's gonna trigger me and I'm gonna cry. But the body dysmorphia, I deal with that so bad. And you wouldn't know it by the way I post on social media or sometimes the way I walk around. Like, you wouldn't know, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, because we put on the good face.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm constantly picking myself apart. Like, oh, even with the podcast, videoing, like you said, how, anxious about just putting yourself out there. I didn't want to get back on camera. I think, matter of fact, and I'm gonna say this because it's true, but it was RJ that kind of played back in my mind
Mm.
because he said something to me and I didn't even realize he was watching. When I did this like a whole year and a half ago, I was doing something a little different, but it was kind of on camera. And he was
Mhm.
like, cuz, like I like your show. He's like, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm just like, you watch it? Like, you like it? Like you watching this? Like, really? But it was so genuine that I was like, and it kind of stuck in my mind. I was like, you never know who's watching you and who's actually like encouraging you behind the scenes. And you're so focused on the stuff that's not important per se, but you just get lost in it because that's where your mind kind of goes. That you're worried about the perceptions of people. And I was so worried, and I still kind of do. I struggle with it, but you get worried about the perceptions of people and what they're thinking and how they're viewing you and things like that. And it was crippling to the point where I wanted to just like give up on this, which I did for a minute. But I was like, yeah, I have to get back in there because it's no longer about me, right? I this is something that I said I prayed about, I asked God about, and this is the path that He's delivering me to. And thinking about how many people are going to get healing from the different people that I bring on here,
Mhm.
and from the subjects that we are going to be talking about. And that's what's the most important is who's going to be getting the healing.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose behind this now. So that's something that's helping me to push past Courtney and just be the platform or the space so that people can get what they need.
For sure.
Um,
For sure. I
so I
mean,
just
me just saying all of these things to you, I mean, I'm saying it, but reality is it's only two people in my life that knows about the traumas that I've gone through, and that's RJ, my fiance,
mhm,
and my best friend. So when this is out and family members do watch, they have no idea. They have no idea what my mental health struggles were.
yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of
But that's
scary.
It is scary, but you know what? I feel like both of us are at this point are going to get healing from it because there's stuff that people don't know. Like a lot of family members that don't know I go through therapy. A lot of family members don't know that I've had anxiety, that I have anxiety, or that I had postpartum. So like I said, I'm removing me. It is what it is at this point. I feel like me speaking my truth is going to help somebody. And the same thing for you. You speaking your truth is going to help somebody. It's not about whether or not they like it. We're not doing it for them. This is for people that need it.
Right.
And like you were saying earlier, this is something that in our community especially that is frowned upon. We're kind of taught to hide things and keep things in secret and always put on this actress. We become great actresses, you
Right.
know, um, and not encouraged to express our feelings for that reason. Like, no, you can't present any weakness. And it's not weak to let people know that you struggle just like they do.
Exactly.
It's actually empowering, it gives people that what they need so they know, like, okay, she went through it. So she went through it and she got through it. I can
Hmm.
go through it and get through it. And that's what it is. It's sharing those experiences so that we can help somebody else. So I love that you're on this podcast. Like I said, there's a reason why God was like, reach out to her. You know what I mean? Because it's I felt that. And that's why I went ahead and I was like, I'm gonna obey that. I'm gonna reach out to her and I'm gonna ask her if she wants to come on. And whatever happens is what's gonna happen and what's ordained. So I'm glad that you're on here. I'm glad that when this airs, that again, your story is going to touch somebody else. So I want you to just do what God's going to let you do on this podcast. So whatever comes out, Shenelle, you let it come out, tears and all, because I'm already crying. I need to fix my face. But
I do that. I have that kind of effect, especially on my patients. They get mad at me a lot of the times. They're like, every time I'm in here, you make me cry. I'm like, well,
yeah,
we're getting all that stuff out. It has to come
yeah,
out
you are.
some way.
Yeah, you are, and that's how you know it's a true gift for you, because if that's the effect that you're having on people, the effect you're having on me, because like I said, I'm crying, I'm trying to hold it because we got to get through this, but it's just just talking about it, and that's what I really want people to understand. Please talk. You can talk about it. It's okay.
It's
You don't
so
have to hide. You know what I mean? It's okay to go to a therapist, see a therapist, whoever it is that you feel comfortable with, and let this stuff out so that you can like be a better human being.
mhm.
But we're gonna keep moving. I'm gonna get myself together.
I'm here to support you, girl.
I know you are. I know you are, and we might have to talk when we get off too.
I'm here for it.
All right, so we were talking about depression, we're talking about trauma. So like we were saying, like, in this season, people are dealing with those kind of things as far as depression and trauma. So what are some of the things that you do with your patients to kind of help them cope through this season, cope through some of the depression issues or anxiety? Like, what are some of the things, that the tools that you implement with your patients to kind of get them into that space of getting into healing?
Mm. So, trauma is a very ingrained thing. It's not as easy as, doing a simple coping skill
Hmm.
to actually heal from it because of how much it does affect not just you mentally and emotionally, but it affects the physical body,
Right.
depending on how disturbing or how distressing the events that you've gone through have been. Right. So with my patients who have gone through trauma, because I mean, majority of my patients are trauma patients, um, minorities,
Mhm.
mainly in the, Black community, Black, Hispanic, and a few Asians that I work with. And I do a lot of exposure and trauma therapy with them, meaning that there is no getting around it. We face it head on.
Right.
And it's scary, of course, because nobody wants to go back to those feelings that they had when they were in those moments of experiencing their trauma. But in order for you to overcome the pain, you have to move through it.
Yes.
not around it, not under it, not above it, but through it. So there's a lot of us, a lot of talk therapy, a lot of talk pair therapy, a lot of journaling. I'm a I'm a therapist that is a big believer on writing everything out, because
Hmm.
mental health is not something that is tangible. You can't, you can't touch it, but you feel it. You know it's there. It's either
Yes.
jumbled in your head or it's heavy in your chest or in your heart. So we call journaling kind of like a technique of transference, where you transfer what's going on internally, and you transfer it outside externally on paper. And doing so makes it a lot more manageable, because it's in your face, you can touch the paper, you can see it visually, which means it's easier for you to now break it down, process it, deal with it, right? So I do a lot of that with them. Or as far as coping, because it's so heavy, trauma is so heavy, a lot of self-soothing. So because trauma affects a lot of our senses, right? The
Hmm.
touch, what you hear, what you see, even what you smell. Even a smell can be a trigger for your trauma.
Yeah.
So, grounding techniques is very important. Using your senses to calm you down, whether that if you're somebody that loves to cook, maybe it's you getting in the kitchen and smelling the aroma of the things that you are cooking. Maybe it's touch. Maybe you have something that's soft or fluffy, or of a texture that makes you feel comforting. Um, Going outside, going in nature, visually seeing everything that's around you, feeling the sun, feeling the wind, the air on your skin. All those things can
Yes.
help ground you, especially when you're in panic mode. When you're in panic
Yes.
and anxious mode, you want to do something that's going to bring you back into the present. Because what happens is that your mind goes back into that phase that you were in when you were in your trauma. And that's not the present, that's the past. So you have to kind of talk yourself into remembering that you're not there anymore. You are safe because you're here in the present and what's going on around you. So focus on the things that are happening around you. Maybe it's the music that you're listening to or the people that are in front of you that you're talking to. Keep yourself as present as possible. That's a lot of the ways that you can cope with trauma.
Absolutely.
But you got to go to
I just
therapy. That's number one. Go to therapy, guys.
go to therapy. You gonna stop? I'm gonna stop crying. Okay, so like yeah, when you were talking about some of the things that you're doing, journaling has been one of the biggest things for me. Just like having like I have my own um daily planner that I write down the emotions of that day. I write down the highest point of my day and the lowest point of my day. Um, and I write something that that changed in the day that maybe changed those emotions for me. So I kind of keep track like that to just keep track of my emotions. And it helps so much because I can identify like what my triggers are. Like, okay, this is kind of what triggered me when I had that low moment that I wrote about. Okay, so this is what triggered me. Um, and then like you said, just feeling safe. Like I have to music is my therapy when I want to calm down or when I want to like get back, like you said, get back into that safe space. Putting on music, whether it's gospel or I I will admit I love soca music. Soca music changes my mood very quickly. So I
It's
am a big Kiss
therapy for a
fan.
lot
I
of
love
people.
Michelle Montano. Any one of those you put on, Patrice Roberts, like I just
Hey,
that
girl.
energy, like it gets me, and I'm like, all right, cool, I can get back in now. But yeah, music tends to like change my mood so fast. That is one of my coping mechanism that I use. Like if I'm
I
feeling some
love
kind of
that.
way, like
That
just
means that
putting
you're
those.
gonna be at my wedding, like showing out.
Yes, because I know all the songs,
I
everything.
love that. Oh man,
Yes.
okay. I
Yeah,
learned
soca,
something
soca.
today.
I love because the energy with soca. You know what I mean? Like it's positive. It really
Mhm.
is. Like it's positive music. Everybody's having a good time. It's all about different things with bacchanal and fest and you know what I mean. And that's all good energy. Just get you going energy. And that I love listening to that. Like my husband will do that sometimes. Like he will literally, and I love this. Like if he sees something. It's like, okay, I'm gonna put something on, and he'll just like throw on Kiss, or he'll throw on, one of the musical artists, but it's always something soca, that he'll try to throw on, and then, like I said, sometimes it's gospel, sometimes I just need to get slayed in spirit, and I will do that, and it'll bring me back as well. But it's so interesting that you mentioned that because, like, again, that's something else that I learned in therapy, like just your senses, tapping into your senses and trying to find something, going outside, like you said, letting the sun hit my face,
Mhm.
breathing in some fresh air, those kind of things that just kind of help me, get back, get
Yeah.
myself more focused and centered. So I definitely agree with you. You are so spot on. Like, this is exactly the same stuff I've been hearing. So, but I just want everybody to understand, like, yes, these are some of the things you can absolutely do. And they're so simple. Putting on
Yeah.
your music, finding music that is positive for you. That helps change your mood, puts you back. Get you focused.
Mhm.
Like Shenelle was saying, stepping outside and getting like sun on your face. If you're in a dark space, I mean, you're gonna feel, that kind of energy. So definitely like going outside and getting sun on your face. You know, Different smells. And I find that interesting that you said about smells because um I had a friend that lost someone, and they put on a really good front. They were like, I'm good, I'm good. And I remember her telling me that she walked into a hallway and there was a piece of clothing there. And the
Mhm.
clothing had the smell of that person that had passed away, and she just lost it.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't understand, and I was like, now I kind of get it, and I'm just like, wow, like, that's a trigger because yeah, if you're used to smelling that certain smell from that person that was in your life, and then you walk by and you just smell, gain or whatever it was, and you're just like, that was what she used to always wear, and it set that person off so bad. So I
Mhm.
don't think people understand that how triggers work a lot of times because sometimes we do get triggered and we don't even know it, and it's
Yeah.
the smallest things at times, like you were saying, like a smell. It could be a picture. It could
Mhm.
be, a coffee mug that somebody had or something, something of sentimental value, but just little things that you would not think of. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden it triggers you in a whole nother way.
Mhm.
Um,
And
and
when
like
you
you said,
are
it's just
triggered, understanding that triggers is a you thing, not an external thing. So when you are triggered by something
mm,
or someone or a place or an environment and it's making you feel a certain type of way, if you are uncomfortable or uh, it's it's making you tense up or feel those bad negative feelings that you've been feeling when you were wherever you were in your past or whatever the case may be. That
yeah.
is an alert system for you that lets you know that you
mm,
still got some things that you need to work through. Because what trauma
Gotcha.
does is that it stunts your development. It keeps you kind of frozen in a
Yeah.
moment in your life where physically you're not there anymore, but mentally and emotionally you still live there.
Yeah. Kind of like being on autopilot. Like you're just.
Right. Right. So there's different trauma responses, right? There's
Mm-hmm,
actually four. Two which are pretty familiar. People know what they are, fight or flight, right?
mm-hmm, yep.
And then you have freeze and fawn. So fight, we know what that is, right? Self-preservation, protecting ourselves no matter who gets hurt in the process, right? Those
Yep,
are the people
absolutely.
you look at them wrong, you breathe at them wrong, they're ready to knock you out.
Mm-hmm.
You have the flight, those are the runners. Those are the people that avoid difficult conversations, uncomfortable feelings at all costs. Anything that makes them feel like they are threatened, they're out of there,
Yes.
right? Then you have those that freeze. It's literally what is in the name. They freeze. I don't know if you ever heard of the phrase playing possum,
Yes.
right?
I
When
have
the
heard that.
possum feels
Yep.
like they're in danger or they're threatened,
Mm-hmm.
they pretend like they're dead. They just freeze
Yes.
and they tip over like they're dead. So that's where that term comes from. A lot of the times people who have gone through extreme traumas, they don't know what else to do, or out of fear of dying or whatever the case may be, they just stay completely still. or they shut down. They don't do or say anything. They just completely shut down. And then you
Yeah.
have the fawners, which are the people pleasers. They are the ones, I'll give you a perfect example. You ever been in a toxic relationship with someone that you would bend over backward, do absolutely anything for, and it never seemed good enough?
Yep.
Those are the fawners. They try their
Wow.
very best to keep those people that are not that good for them in their life by doing whatever it is that they want them to do, even though it's not in their best interest to do it.
Oh yeah. I think that yeah, I've been a fawner. I have been a fawner. I think most people, would you agree that most people probably have been
Yeah.
fawners at some point in their life, correct? Especially when you're talking about like relationships. Um being people pleasers, that was detrimental almost to my health. Like I almost lost my life
Oh my
being that
goodness.
particular person at one point in time before I met my husband. And you are so right. You know, you think you're doing everything that you can, think you're doing everything to try to keep that person, and it's so detrimental to your health. Like it
Yeah.
really was. Like that literally was detrimental to my health. Like I literally almost lost my life,
Mm,
trying to keep this person. Um, in my life that honestly did not have my best interest in hand. Um, Literally did not care, you know, if I was here or not, unless it meant, you know, unless he could get something out of it. But it it is so detrimental. Like you have to, and I had to understand because it was a self esteem issue as well. That body dysmorphia, all that kicked in. You know, I just felt like I wasn't going to get anybody better. So I had to hold on to this. You know, like this was the best I was gonna get. You know, like, and I'm not gonna cry again. Chanel, I'm not gonna cry again.
let
Um,
it out, Courtney. You need
but
to. It's part of
I had to really, I
we've
had to
all
let
been
that
there.
go.
Mhm.
I had to let that go, as hard as it was. And I think, like you said, it comes from a place of trauma because I did not understand what it was for, you know, a man to properly love a woman at some point. Because, and I'm not saying my parents are bad, but you know, I was raised in a military household. It just was different.
Yeah.
And you know, some things that maybe I should have learned, I didn't. And the moment I got around this particular person, you know, when I saw that little glimmer, I latched onto it. And
Mhm.
it just became one of those things that just grew bigger and bigger. And I took the abuse. I took um the verbal, the mental abuse,
Mm.
you know, almost losing my life. And it took my parents to come get me because I literally left the house. Like I left the house, went to a whole nother state,
Mhm.
and in the process of being in a whole nother state with nobody that I knew, I almost lost my life, and my parents had to come get me. And that was
Wow.
my life changing moment where I was like, this is not for me because even after I tried to reach back out, like he wouldn't respond. You know, he wouldn't return my calls or anything. And it's like I literally almost died and you don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Um, and that was my life changing moment for me to just know like this is not what I want. I don't, and the pain I caused my mom, my dad, my grandmother called me, and that's what hit me the most, is that my grandmother reached out to me and was just checking on me, make sure I was okay. And she told me, like, you know, call your parents, tell them, you know, you need to let them know what's going on. And that was, to this day, like it bothers me so bad because I'm just like, I can't believe I let myself get that far gone. But like you said,
Mhm.
I was fawning, you know, like that was me. I was in that space. I wanted to hold on. I wanted to hold on
And
to it.
also, you don't know what you don't know when you don't know it, right?
Yeah.
So if you've never been exposed to the telltale signs of what to look for as far as like what it is you want in a healthy relationship, then you're pretty much out there experimenting, exploring, and life is going to be your biggest teacher, and you are going to learn the biggest lessons. And forgive yourself for that. Forgive yourself for being so hard on yourself for something that, wasn't necessarily in your control, because you cannot control the behaviors of others. Whether you were doing everything right and you were the best woman, you cooked, you cleaned, you made sure he had everything he needed, you sexually satisfied him, you made sure that you looked a certain way for him. You can do all those things. And this is not just in romantic relationships. This is relationships overall, right? It is not on you. It is not your obligation on how someone receives you. It's theirs. So if he did not have that kind of discipline and control to even step back, create some self awareness for himself on how his actions were affecting you, then that's on him, on the other person to work out, not on the individual that's getting hurt by it. That makes
You're right.
sense?
It makes sense. It does. I'm just. I said I wasn't gonna cry today. I keep saying that. I keep saying that, and I just knew. And I think that's the other reason why my husband was like, "Yeah, I'll go ahead, take my niece to dance practices more." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think I can do both, but I'm pretty sure he didn't want to be here while I was, having. He knew I was
Yeah.
gonna have a moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Let go of that misplaced responsibility that you're still holding on to.
yeah, because
Let it
I
go.
did. I felt so bad. I've been feeling. I've like I said, it's the perception, and most of them don't know this. Some do, some may know, but most of my family doesn't know about that particular incident. Only certain people do. But I
Yeah.
just felt like, you know, how did I let myself get to that point? And I was just like, that's like I'm raised to be tough. Like, and in that instance, I wasn't even tough. I was just letting it happen. Um, and so, like I said, it's just the coping, the different ways, like just being raised in a military household. Like I said, my dad wasn't. I wouldn't say my dad was super strict, but it was just different. Like we were army, and it made sense to us, the way we were in the household. But it wasn't a lot of, like I didn't see my parents do a lot of romantic stuff. Not to say like it was bad, but I just didn't see them do a lot of romantic stuff. I didn't
Mhm.
see like my dad open doors for my mom, and things. I didn't see that chivalry per se. Like he wasn't a yeller and screamer or nothing, but it just wasn't that kind of relationship. Like they just kind of, they were just parents.
Mhm.
But I feel like, that was part of the part that I was missing because I don't think they realized I was watching, and that was one of the things is I'm watching to see how like y'all interact. And, you know, when I go now and I have a boyfriend or whatever, like I'm trying to mimic what I see at home. And I haven't really gotten a lot of that, so I don't know. And so certain things that would happen, I'm just like, well, I don't know if that's right or wrong because I don't really see my parents doing it. And other people I've been around, I don't see them doing it, so I don't know
Mhm.
what to expect. And like you said, you don't know what you don't know. So that relationship taught me a lot of what I don't want. I will say that. That relationship definitely gave me a blueprint of what I expect now, what I will put up with, what I won't put up with. It gave me a lot of perspective. So I won't say that, like you said, I have to forgive myself about it. And I think, as far as
Mhm.
like on my other spectrum of just being like forgiving myself, like Christian wise, it was something that I had to go through. Like I feel like I did go through it. It was a lesson I did learn. I have a
Mhm.
wonderful husband now, so I don't regret it. It is something that like I look back on, I'm like, I can't believe you did that. But I
Mhm.
understand that I went through that and it built a different type of Courtney. And it also gave Courtney that perspective and that blueprint of what a real man looks like and what a faithful man looks like, what a caring man looks like, a man that's aware of my emotions. And, it gave me more of that perspective of that's what I want. I want a man that's going to communicate with me
Mhm.
effectively and we can like literally he can look beyond what I look like and try to go, look at the inside and really like
Right.
make sure my inside is good because that
Right.
inside is good and this outside is going to reflect what's in here.
Mhm.
So, and that's what I have now. But when I say every time, it is a trigger for me when I talk about that. When I talk about that relationship or other certain things, traumas that I've been through, like it is one of those things that it does trigger me.
Mhm.
So I need to get myself together. But I
That's why therapy is so important because therapy helps a person to become more self-aware of these things, to really be able to understand like I'm not acting this way just because or for no reason. This
Yeah,
is the cause behind of it. And also taking accountability for the fact that just because there is a reason isn't justification for you to still go around acting a fool.
that
Now
is so
that you
true.
know what the reason is, let's work towards becoming a better version of yourself because of it.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Because people do tend to use those issues as a pass, and I have seen some of my other friends that do this. Um, or friends of the past, I will say, I'll make that reference, but friends of the past that have made, certain done certain actions, and the excuse is because oh well, this is something I went through when I was younger, things like that. But like you said, they don't take the accountability. So it's like if you know you have an issue, like I knew I had one, I sought help, so I could
Mm,
change, so I could be a better person, so I don't have to make excuses for my behavior. Now I'm actually taking actions and steps to
mm,
correct my behavior because of those issues that I'm dealing with.
mm.
So, like you said, if you don't take the accountability for it, and now you're pushing people away because I don't want to be around you if you don't want to seek the help, but you want to continue to abuse me per se.
Right,
And then the excuse is because you're going through trauma. But okay, well, let's help you get some help for the trauma that you're going through so that we can foster a better relationship.
right.
But again, I think it does stand back to what you said about being fearful of just meeting those issues head on, like how you say you deal with your patients, like you
Mhm.
meet them head on, like we go through it. And I
Yeah,
think some people don't want to go through it because of the weakness factor, like you feel weak or you feel the guilt, which are all the things I experienced when I first started therapy. Is I felt guilty. I felt like, oh, I'm a failure. I'm weak because I got to do this. But like you said, I had to sit there though. I did sit there and I went through it. And the same thing that you're saying, the therapist said to me is, yeah, you went through it, but this is what we're going to do to help you can like be better. So this is not a you look at yourself in a negative light. This is you like, okay, I'm taking these steps to better myself. This is you're going for a better outcome and you're going
right.
for a better you. So I mean that should be your goal, not necessarily people pleasing, but
Mhm.
how can Courtney be better? So I can be better for everybody else because you run out of gas trying to keep up these personas and keep
Mhm.
up the actress. Like I was so tired
Yeah.
of putting on the face. Like I literally felt like my makeup was part of my like a costume. Like okay, I put on my face and now I can go out and I can show the world this Courtney,
Mhm.
versus the other Courtney that's broken, hurting, but she's trying to manage through it. But I don't want to show that person. I'm gonna show this person.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's what I see a lot of that with some of my older friends is, and they're still struggling with it. And that's why I'm like, please, y'all have to get therapy. I can't stress it enough. Like, y'all have to seek therapy. You can't do this by yourself. You just can't. I just feel like as human beings, we're not meant to try to get through our problems by ourselves. I feel like it takes a village at times. It
Right.
does. It takes a
It does.
village of people
Mhm.
to help you
Yeah.
navigate through life.
Not only
So
children need villages, adults need villages too.
yes, like what do they call it? Tribes. People say, I got my tribe, or but that is a real thing. Like you do need a tribe to kind of help you navigate through life because each one of y'all are going to teach each other, and if you're all on that similar path, you know, then the outcome should be more positive, especially if that's who you're around. If you're trying
Right.
to be around more positive people and things like that, then that's but you need a tribe. People say it all the time. I got my
Mhm.
tribe, my three girlfriends or whoever it is that you call your tribe. But you
Mhm.
have to definitely like just remember this is not a all Courtney thing or whoever, you have to have that group of people around you. And I think a therapist should always be in your tribe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because I've had my fair share of going to therapy as well. I am a therapist that goes to therapy, and
Look at that. See?
it's actually taught to us in grad school. Like one of the first things that we learn is our own self-care, and we do have to go to therapy as well because this work is not easy.
Mm-mm.
I take a lot of energy, like from people come with different energies, and
Yes.
it takes a lot out of you. And I can easily enter into burnout if I don't do the things necessary to take care of myself. And that includes me going to therapy. I
Yes.
also wouldn't be able to do what I do if I was a therapist that didn't heal from the things that I went through by going to therapy. There's no
Hmm.
way. There's no way I could be able to guide, the patients that I have now. I'd be a hypocrite. I'd be a hypocrite to tell my patients, you belong here in therapy if I'm not to do the work if I didn't do the work myself.
Absolutely. And that's interesting. I think people don't know that though, but I always say like, because this is something else. Because my husband is a minister, but I always say like, you have to be counseled by other people because you put on so much when you put yourself out there like that, right? And you're getting all this, like you said, energy. You're getting all this. You're dealing with all these things at one time, and that's something you can bring home. Like you're at work, and you're listening to this all day, and all that energy is on you. And if you're not taking the time to properly take care of yourself, you can bring some of that energy right on back home to your loved ones. So it's so important that you especially take the time because this is the profession you're in, so definitely take the time to yourself to make yourself the best you so that you can go back the next day and
Mhm.
continue to do this, because like you said, you are going to get burnt out. Like we do this, not even therapists, not just therapists, just even if you're in your own circle, right? Like your own circle of friends, you notice that you're the one that they're always talking to,
Mhm.
and you're just taking on everything that they're saying. And the next thing you know, you're bringing it home, and now all of a sudden you have an attitude with your husband, and he's like, well, what's wrong with you? And it's like, well, so and so said her, but it's like you have to take the time to be like, that's outside, and I need to do something before I get home, so that I can like decompress,
Yeah.
and get my mental right, so that I'm not wearing that energy when I get home, because now I'm taking that energy out on people that have nothing to do with whatever that was.
Mhm.
And I found myself doing that. That's a question I do have since we're talking about that.
Mhm.
Do you find that sometimes, and not just in your not therapist wise, but that we have the capacity sometimes that we let people dump on us, and that when we do let people continue to like, because we say we want to like help our friends, we say we want to be able to empower and things like that, but when does it become a problem where you're trying to help that person but it feels like they're dumping, like it's not necessarily going through, they just want to talk and say all the negative stuff that's happening to them.
Mhm.
So when do you feel like that's an issue, and when, or how should you try to correct that without turning that person off? Because the goal is like, if they're talking, you don't want them to all of a sudden stop, right?
Yeah.
And just hold it all in. But how do you redirect them? I guess is the best word. How do you redirect them so that they understand, like, you can talk to me, but there's a method to this, or there's a way we can do this so that's beneficial and not just draining me.
Mhm. So it definitely becomes an issue when there are no boundaries at all. If it's affecting you to the point where after you've finished talking to them, or even immediately when you start talking to them, you notice a shift in you. There's a
Hmm.
shift in your mood, there's a shift in the way that you're thinking and feeling, right? And boundaries are so important. Setting soft and hard boundaries are important. Soft boundaries are the boundaries where, for example, right, not always immediately responding to a text or a call, right? You giving yourself that boundary of, I'm not going to just drop everything that I'm doing right away, but I'm giving myself time when I am ready to respond to something. And
Right.
hard boundaries being like the big things, the, not violating my person, all of that stuff. So when we talk about dumping, I encourage people a lot, like if you do have those people that are in your support system that are the people that you vent to, be considerate. Ask them first, are you at capacity to hear me and my issues right now? Like, do you have that capability and capacity right now? If they say no, be okay with that no. And maybe you may want to look into getting a therapist, because here's the thing, people are just human. That means that they're not always going to be dependable. They're not always going to be there for you. And in the
Hmm.
moments when they're not, it's important that you have some kind of action plan for yourself that's going to help you get out of the things that you're used to having people help you get out of. That includes having a
Absolutely.
therapist. That includes you learning more about yourself. In order for you to know what you need, you first have to know who you are, right?
Yes.
Being unafraid to say no. If you are a person that is the people, the person that they come to, and you have all these things already on your plate, it's okay to say no. Your friend is going to be okay. Unless they're in some like major self-harm type of situation, all right, you need to call 911, not me. I'm not the professional, right?
Right.
But you can't always be the savior, and you can't place the obligation on yourself to be the fixer. I tell
Yes.
I tell people all the time, the world is not your obligation. I
Yes.
had to learn that concept myself.
Absolutely. You. That was that's still me. Like I still feel like, oh, I can help. I can help. I can help. You are so right. Like you can't fix everything. Like that's not your job, But sometimes some of us we feel like we're compelled to do so. Like, oh no, I need to go and help her. I need to go help him, or I need to go do this. I need to go. And you're not understanding that sometimes that's at your detriment for you to
Mhm.
do so.
You have
And
to you have to be mindful of the amount of access that you're giving
yes,
yourself to people.
yes. And that was something I struggle with. I've gotten better at setting that boundary of no and feeling like, hey, if I tell you no, it's not because I'm being mean, it's strictly because this is a boundary for me and I feel like I need to assert this boundary, you know. But yeah, saying the word no, I as a people pleaser, a recovering one for the most part. Saying no, I felt like, oh, I'm gonna lose friends. I'm gonna, they're not gonna like me anymore, if I say
And
no.
if
And
they
it's like
do, they were never meant for you, because someone who really cares about you, they're going to understand right now she can't do it. As it doesn't mean she's never going to be able to, but as of right now, it's not in her capacity to do it. And if someone can't do that for you, they are completely inconsiderate, and you should reevaluate whether you want them in your life or not.
that is so true. Well,
Oh man.
I'm just, and I that's why I'm like, people struggle with this so bad. And I'm just like, I had to come to this point, like you said, I'm just like, if you can't respect my space of me saying no this one time,
Hmm.
then what are we doing? Like, why are you here? Like, why are we? Because it's
Yeah.
like I'm trying to tell you that I'm not good for you right now. Like, I need space. I need to do me right now. I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity, like you said, mentally right now. I can't handle it. So I'm not
Mm,
telling you I don't want to do it, like because of something else. I'm just telling you, like right now, it's just not a good time. I can't. And you are so right. You should be able to respect them. Like, I respect that. At least she answered. At least I answered you. Didn't ignore you. I gave you a response, but you don't like the response. And
mm,
so I think that's a problem that some people need to address with themselves, that some people don't like the word no and they look at no as a negative instead of evaluating why the no was given in the first place. You just look at it as
mhm.
rejection, and people
Right.
struggle with rejection. And
Mm,
so that's where you have those bumping of the heads because you're looking at it as a rejection. And it's just, I'm not
mhm.
rejecting, I'm just telling you not right now. No for me right now in this situation means not right now. I can't do that right now. But
Yeah.
not to say maybe tomorrow I might be able to do it tomorrow. But today, no, I can't do it right now. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, people struggle with rejection. That's one of the biggest things. I don't know if that's a misconception that you see a lot. The when
Fear of
it comes to certain
rejection.
boundaries where it crosses that rejection.
It does. It does. Oftentimes, they associate no to mean rejection of them as a person,
Hmm.
who they are. Something's wrong with them. They internalize it.
Yes.
And if that is what happens, then the person should be mindful of where that's rooted in and
Hmm.
explore that. Because now that's the reaction that they're giving you is a projection of something that's going on with them internally. When
I like these words. These words, projection, rejection. When I say all these words, it's just like they're just the. I hate to say trigger, but those are the words like you just rejection and projecting and I find that we do, like you said, project a lot of stuff onto people because I was one of those people. I would project what I perceive onto
Mhm.
somebody else, and it's not even that situation because again, it's in here. It's
Right.
not really what's out here. It's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Um, and then the communication doesn't go along with that perception. So then now we just got confusion. So,
Right. Right. And it's a
um,
feeling. And
yeah,
we're going to be real. Feelings are not facts, right?
Yep.
That's
No,
not
they're
to
not.
say invalidate your feelings. All, your feelings are always valid, but they are not facts in the sense of they are not equating to the evidence that's showing you what it is that's really happening in this situation right now,
Yes.
right? So we create these opinions or these narratives in our heads a lot of the time based on how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked you to do something for me. You say, you know what, I really wish I could, but right now, I can't. I have prior obligations. However, let me point you in this direction, right?
Yeah.
You said it nicely, and you even gave me a resource, right? But I didn't hear any of that. All I heard was, you don't want anything to do with me. That's what I
Yes.
heard, right? And that is what I constantly hear playing over and over and over and over in my head because of whatever was instilled in me from whatever experience, however long ago, right?
Yeah.
I never outgrew that. That stayed there. So because that's playing over and over and over and over again in my head, now that becomes my reality. And it's not necessarily what other people are thinking about me, but now it's just more about what I think about myself because
Mm-hmm.
of what I've been through and what I've been shown and exposed to. I now believe those things to be real. So something as simple as somebody saying no to me means that it verifies for me that I am the problem.
Yeah.
And that is something serious that people need to, whoever goes through something like that, really explore that with a therapist.
Yes.
Me, for example.
Key. Key. With a therapist. We're gonna stay on that. With a therapist. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on here. When I say so much, just me being me, of course, anyway, um, touched on and just some things that I really wasn't even thinking about. Now I'm thinking about them now, but just being able to just talk about them and, like I said, the communication and just being able to get over that fear of there's nothing wrong with me. It's not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with you guys. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like we've been telling you this whole time, like, we need a team of people to help us navigate through life, right? We need to have things put in place so that we can better for the people around us. There's no need in us hiding things. There's no need in us being fearful. That's what people like Shenelle are for. Like, that's what they're for. They're here to help us, and help guide us through the different things that we're experiencing. There's no need for you to suffer in silence. There's really no need. You can always get help. You can always seek out people like Shenelle. Again, I'm going to say like a therapist, because again, we have our tribes, yes, but definitely
Mhm.
using a licensed therapist, someone who is in this field, who understands the ideologies and the chemistries of how our minds work. That's who we need to seek out, so that we can actually get the help that we need. So I
Mhm.
definitely appreciate Shenelle coming on here and giving us some insight, sharing some of your trauma as well. And again, we look forward to having you back on. This will not be your first and last time. You will be on here again,
Forward to it.
going into some deeper subjects. But
Mhm.
we want to make sure we're sharing all your information. So I will be posting all of her information so that you guys can reach out to her again. She is in the, I believe, Tampa area, correct?
Wesley Chapel.
Wesley Chapel. So she is definitely, anybody's in the Wesley Chapel area, or you don't mind making the drive to that area, definitely reach out. I will again leave all her information in the description box as well. I'll be posting it on social media, so you can definitely reach out to her to
Mhm.
again help you with your mental health journey. So
Yeah.
we again appreciate you so much. If there's any last words you want to go ahead and give before we close out, I will turn it over to you, Chanel.
Yes. Well, firstly, thank you again for having me on the show. This was fun being my first podcast that I was on. And for
Mm-hmm.
anyone who is interested, but they've never been to therapy before, but they feel like they might want to try it, I encourage you. Like Courtney said, she will post my information. I see adults between the ages of 18 to geriatric, so 60s, 70s. And if you feel like you're still struggling, you're having some internal conflict with even who you are, You may not even know who you are. You may think that maybe I don't know who I am, and you want to figure who that person is. Reach out to me. I'm here to support you.
Absolutely. And we appreciate it. So we are going to close this out. Again, I will leave all of Shenelle's information on the podcast as well as all social media. But we encourage you to love on one another, love on yourself, and continue to empower each other. We love you guys.
Love you.